So I chose to do choice number 3, which is the U.S. Health and Nutrition in 2003. And in each of my samples, I decided to do 1,000 people. And so in each sample, I got education, marital status, household income, gender, age, pregnancy status, race, BMI, height, weight, and that's it for this first data set that I got. They obviously have a lot of different categories you can do, but I chose to do these because I was looking pretty much at pregnant women versus a bunch of different factors. So the first one I did was pregnant women versus their age. So as you can see, there really weren't a whole lot of pregnant women. There were only 9.7% of pregnant women out of all of the females in this data set. So there were only 30 out of 1,000. And as you can see, it goes from age 16 to age 36 in the people who were pregnant. And then down here, obviously, you have 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds, those who typically wouldn't be pregnant, all the way up to 60. So this shows that there isn't really a trend between with age or anything between pregnant women. So going back to pregnant women and their age, I said 30 out of 1,000. I meant 30 out of 308 because that's how many total women there are. So in this data set, I am looking at pregnant women versus their marital status. And so what you can see is the percentages are in rows. So 47 of the total pregnant women are married, and 23% were never married, 27% are living with their partner, and only 3.3% are divorced. And what you have to think about is all of these married women down here, the 36%, they could possibly have kids already, but they're not pregnant at this moment. So what I can tell from this is almost half of the women who are pregnant right now are married. Another thing you can see is 0% of widowed females aren't pregnant, and the same goes for those who are separated in this data set. In this data set of pregnant women versus education status, you can see that across the board of women who are pregnant, 33% of them had less than a high school education, 33% has a degree from high school, and 33% have more than high school education. So in the data set, it doesn't really have any correlation or anything that makes pregnant women versus their education status stand out because they are all even. So this is the last data set in this with the pregnant women. So the one I did for the last one is pregnant women versus household income. And these are in column percents. So you can see that 75 plus income, there is only 5.8% of women who are in the 75 plus column that are pregnant. And you can see that 10% of the women in the 35 to 45,000 income are pregnant. I don't really see any major trends here with the pregnant women. The only thing I can see is that the highest number of pregnant women are in the category of 20 to 25,000. But for the non-pregnant women, I was really surprised by the amount of women who make over 75,000. The next data set that I looked at was 1,000 people in each sample again, and the attributes I chose for this one was education, marital status, poverty, income ratio, gender, age, race, BMI, height, weight, and I did all of the blood pressure attributes, and I also did calcium and iron. So when you are anemic, your iron levels are typically 13.5 to 17.5 grams per deciliter. So this graph, I am just showing you all of the different iron numbers in each person. It goes from iron of 5 to iron of 223. So that is a very large difference. So one of the first graphs that I made was iron in their blood work versus their age. So as you can see, it's pretty scattered throughout. There's really no trend here. The female are all in purple and the male are all in orange, and it's pretty much all over the place. I guess there's just a big plot here between ages 10 and 20, but they range from about 50 to 125. So it doesn't really seem to me that there is a trend in this one. The next one I did was the iron in the blood work versus race. And again, I didn't really see a trend. If all of the races had the same amount of white or Mexican American, they would all look the same because this is just basically a mini version of white and Mexican American. So I don't see any trends with iron and race. The fourth data set that I did was iron versus gender. And the only thing I can really see are there are about 3 or 4 up here in the 220s to 240 and 200 to 220 that the women don't have. And women seem to have a lot less iron levels down here in the 0 to 40 basically. Men seem to have a lot less than women do in that data set. So looking at this data set, I would say you could say that men seem to have a little bit higher iron levels than women just because women are pretty heavy down here at the bottom and men tend to go up a little bit. So I didn't see many trends in iron with how they can be put into groups. So I decided to go ahead and do education and age. And it was pretty much what I had expected because in the less than high school, you have a lot of younger people, which makes sense because age 14, you're still in school, age 12 through typically 18, sometimes 17, sometimes 19. So this large group right here is still in school. So that would make sense as to why it's less than high school for those. And more than high school, it's about 32% of the total because down here in less than high school, a lot of those kids from 10 to 20 take up a lot of that data. Another one that I decided to do was marital status versus age. And as you can see that there is a big clump right here of people who were never married, which makes sense because these are, again, the younger people. So going back to the main question of iron, I could not find any certain groups that were more likely to be anemic than other groups. So I couldn't predict how much iron a person would have in their blood based on their age, their race, or any other factors like their gender or Weight.